Welcome to Chapter 11, Looking Good, Ideology, Intersectionality and the Beauty Industry. This week is all about the social construction of beauty ideals and the impact of those ideals. Again, we'll be taking a critical approach which will allow us to interrogate the authority of norms of beauty against which all women are measured. Now, I'm going to talk about women today, but there are standards of beauty against which men are measured too. Not the same pressure to conform perhaps, but they certainly exist. We'll also consider the industry of beauty, the perpetual drive to sell more products and foster a sense of dissatisfaction in order to feed an insatiable industry. In some ways, this week gives us a chance to consolidate a lot of our learning to date because it revisits a number of the key concepts we've already discussed. For example, ideology, social constructionism, consumerism, gender and hegemony all feature. But we'll be working with these concepts in slightly different ways as we consider the beauty industry. And new concepts will also be introduced along the way, including intersectionality, bodywork, aesthetic labour and aesthetic entrepreneurship. Okay, so our first key concept is something you should now be very familiar with, socially constructed. You've heard about this numerous times now, including back in Chapter 6 when I talked about race, ethnicity and sport. In the context of the beauty industry, socially constructed refers to the fact that ideas about what constitutes beauty are not an absolute truth or obvious or natural. They're created in very specific historical and cultural contexts. And in contemporary Western society, beauty for women occupies a very narrow definition that's often associated with being tall and slim, but also toned and athletic, being young, having symmetrical facial features with clearly defined cheekbones, being hair-free, etc., etc., etc. And don't forget that these ideals are established by powerful fashion, advertising and marketing industries, as well as celebrity culture that can change the rules of the game seemingly in an instant. Think the Kim Kardashian booty that has led to soaring numbers of women having bum implants. So, there are powerful structures at work that locate women within this beauty industry. The thing is, these beauty ideals are also produced through social norms, values and processes. They're culturally specific and ideological. Which is tricky in a way because that makes it sound as if they have no weight. If it's just an idea, then let's generate a new idea. Let's, as a society, broaden out the idea of female beauty to make room for fat women, for women of colour, for trans women, etc. But of course it's not that simple because the ubiquity of these images, we see them constantly in movies, on billboards, advertisements, music videos, magazines, social media. It means that we are constantly saturated by them. And importantly, in contemporary Western society at least, a woman's appearance and her alignment or not with dominant ideals of beauty have become inextricably linked with judgments of her character and value that shape how women relate to themselves, to others, and to the world around them. You'll recall from Chapter 3 that ideologies reinforce, naturalise power hierarchies. They convince us that an unequal outcome in society is natural. So what does that look like in the context of dominant ideas of what constitutes beauty? Well, we think it's perfectly natural that those who fit the West's narrow construction of beauty can create an Instagram account and command millionaire lifestyles on nothing more than their good looks and love of a smoothie bowl. And conversely, it means that we think it's totally legitimate that fat women, for example, are less likely to be promoted in the workplace or hired in the first instance than slim women. And we also think it's totally legitimate that fat women of colour are triply marginalised due to their gender, their size and their ethnic background. This speaks to the interconnected nature of social categories such as race, class and gender, that is, intersectionality. It is in the intersection of these categories where systems of discrimination or disadvantage are revealed. The West beauty ideology has become firmly entrenched, equating beauty with virtue and its opposite with stigma. stigma that has material effects. In other words, the dominant beauty ideal is hegemonic. So, what do we make of these beauty ideals? Well, for many of us, they're all-consuming. Despite knowing these ideals are beyond reach, many of us invest a lot of labour and money in our appearance. Which brings us to our next key concept, bodywork. Bodywork refers to the labour that people perform or hire others, often poorly paid others, to perform for us, in order to manage and manipulate our bodies to fulfil these cultural expectations. So this might include skincare regimes, makeup, teeth whitening, eyebrow tattooing, waxing and bronzing, cosmetic surgery, having your hair done, dieting, going to the gym. I could go on, clearly. And clearly these are practices that fall on a continuum in terms of how intrusive and permanent they are. Bodywork and consumer culture, an idea you're already familiar with, go hand in hand. We're constantly assailed with beauty products that promise to make us look younger, blemish-free, more energised, as well as new fashions from an industry that depends on perpetually reinventing itself, producing itself anew, so that consumers like us are compelled to keep purchasing more, even though there is nothing wrong with the goods, with the clothes we already own. Of course, it doesn't seem to matter that we understand how the fashion industry operates, or that we recognise these images of beauty as false representations. Way back in 2009, Ralph Lauren was roundly criticised for digitally enhancing, it was called slenderising at the time, photos of model Philippa Hamilton. And a quick Google of photoshopped celebs throws up countless images of celebrities smoothing their skin, removing bags from under their eyes, narrowing their waists, and magicking their cellulite away. It's not even that hard to do anymore. Anyone with a laptop and time on their hands can Photoshop an image. So if bodywork is not enough, digital technology is here to help. The digital world has increased the surveillance and policing of women's bodies, including self-policing, as the managed body has become a key means of acquiring and displaying cultural capital, especially in Instagram, where Instagrammers post carefully contrived, retouched and filtered images. The thing is, in the contemporary climate of the health and wellness industry, it is not enough to be beautiful on the outside, one must also be beautiful on the inside. And this idea of oneself needs to be marketed through Instagram posts and captions that signal a healthy, righteous, yoga-filled lifestyle. Reachers Elias, Gill and Schaaf describe this kind of work as aesthetic labour, a combination of physical, cultural, technological and psychological labour that goes well beyond simple body work. And these labours open up a new space in the sociology of work and looking good called aesthetic entrepreneurship, a field that captures the way the body, beauty and image become a product for sale on the digital market, often through native advertising, that is, advertising products without appearing to endorse those products. Interestingly, the digital world is also throwing up new technological developments with regard to beauty. In September 2018, luxury fashion label Balmain introduced 3 new models or brand ambassadors to their team: Shudu, Margot and Xi. The thing is, Shudu, Margot and Xi are not real. They're CGI created by UK fashion photographer Cameron James Wilson and exist only as images, wearing digital versions of the Balmain collection. But they go places. Red carpet events and film premieres, even have opinions about things. Shudu, for example, is an avid supporter of the Black Lives Matter movement. I've talked in this video about the pressure placed on women to conform to unattainable and somewhat homogenous standards of feminine beauty. Research tells us that many of us, some 40%, compare ourselves to others we see on social media, and that nearly 3/4 of us wish we could change the way we look. So it begs the question, how might we compare ourselves to a CGI construction of the perfect woman? I want to finish by asking you to reflect on the second of our thinking frames, agency and structure. I've been talking about the beauty industry, and we could add the fashion industry in here too, as a structure that shapes many of our desires and actions in very distinct ways. But to what extent do you think we have agency to resist these dominant and limited forms of feminine beauty? I look forward to reading your thoughts on stream. Bye for now.